You are tuned in to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I am your host, Lance White, also known as the Zany Mystic. Tonight, my guest is Gary Gach. Gary was born in Los Angeles in 1947 and earned a BA in English. He's worked as a bookstore clerk, hospital administrator, legal secretary, editor-in-chief, stevedore, typographer, and web weaver. He currently teaches at Stanford Continuing Studies. Recipient of an American Book Award and a Northern California Book Award, he's published a best-selling guide to the Internet, a book for writers, a book of poems, 3 translations of poetry. He's contributed to over 100 journals and anthologies. He's indexed as a Tang translator, and his work has been translated into Arabic, Chinese, Czech, French, Greek, Korean, and Russian. He's been blessed by wonderful teachers, beginning with his parents. As a boy, he avidly read an uncle's copies of transcripts of talks at Ojai by Krishnamurti. He first practiced silent meditation with a group at a Quaker retreat in 1964. Saladin Paul Reps taught him meditation at a shop on Sunset Boulevard a couple of years later. In San Francisco, he was introduced to zazen by Dainin Katagiri Roshi. He was fortunate to hear the chuckle in Alan Watts' voice, to see the twinkle in Shunryu Suzuki Roshi's eye, and to dance the singing of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. His Buddhist root lineage is the tradition of the Thich Nhat Hanh, and I'm sure that he could probably say that a lot better than I did. I'm presently studying his recent best-selling work, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Buddhism, 3rd edition, which we'll be discussing among other spiritual principles to live by. His writing is truly brilliant and easy to grasp. I highly recommend this book for even the most advanced students. In addition, it contains jewels of wisdom and historical information that I personally wasn't aware of. Today, he lives on San Francisco's Russian Hill and swims in the bay. That's dangerous. He hopes to write 1 or 2 really immortal haiku in his lifetime, so let's welcome this cosmic voyager to the show right now. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hi, Lance. No one on the radio can hear me blush. Gosh,
well, they can't see us, so you can blush all you want.
All right.
I have to ask you, with so many people that are turning away from religion as a valid path to connect with Source, what differentiates Buddhism from other forms of spirituality today?
That's a good question. Well, I don't think anything is really different from anything except how you get there.
Yeah.
And that can sort of change how you look at the ultimate destination, which is the ultimate source. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all one. We're all drinking from the same lake. It's just people are in different shores and saying what it tastes like from that shore. But Buddhism, I think, attracts a good number of people because it's not really a religion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't talk about the creation of the universe or a creator deity.
Mm-hmm.
So, technically, it's not a religion. You have a religion with no God? I don't think so.
True.
I personally have been following this path most of my life because it's just sort of the way I resonate with the universe. I find it works for me. Mm-hmm. And it seems to have all over the planet. In other words, it seems to fit whatever culture it comes into contact with. providing very simple tools that are time-tested ancient traditions of wisdom and compassionate awareness.
True.
That I think we as human beings all kind of resonate with. Some people say the Buddha was one of, many avatars to have lived amongst us, many Buddhas, the historical Buddha, who have been telling us this for, thousands of years, that we're all blessed by life and its wonderful opportunities. Did I get your question right?
It's not a
test. Dot an I or cross a T?
Yes, you got it beautifully. So, what would you say is the core essence of Buddhism if you had to kind of boil it down to it doesn't have to be a one-liner, but in essence, the core of it, what would you say is at the core root of Buddhism?
True happiness. Have you noticed? Happiness has become this sort of cultural meme lately.
Yeah.
Everywhere from like Oprah to Time magazine, it's all about happiness, the happiness revolution.
Yeah.
The teachings of the Buddha are basically that living beings want to be happy. We all want to be happy. And humans have a great ability of thwarting our natural abilities for great happiness.
No kidding.
Duh. And you can sum up how those teachings. You can sum up those teachings in one word or two sentences or three sentences. It's the Four Noble Truths, which you could collapse into two. It's the nature of suffering and liberation from suffering. Let's see, to begin, it's like the jogger's mantra. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is extra. There's suffering and there's do-it-yourself suffering.
Right.
There's the suffering that just like you can't get away from because you're mortal, and eventually the body is going to be experiencing some stuff.
Right.
On the other hand, we have a great ability to narrate a story of the universe that's all about us, in which either we're not getting what we want here, or I thought I wanted it, but when I got it, I didn't want it. And I'm very angry about this. We're very good at this. And this is called what we call, needless suffering.
Yeah.
Very simple. And yet, why isn't it we can't, let it go? Let go of it all the time. Well, it isn't that easy. And so there's a kind of traditional tips called the Eightfold Path of wisdom, meditation, and sort of ethical conscious conduct to keep our feet on this path of harmony and joy, which we were born to enjoy. I would say, if I were to, the Dalai Lama sums it all up in one word: kindness, which is great. In the book, I'll give you one more. It's kind of a quickie. In the book, Jane Hirschfield, the poet, the former Buddhist nun, a wonderful poet, Jane Hirschfield, was once she was at the monastery at the Zen Center in Big Sur, and one of her fellow students said, somebody has given me an assignment or a contract to write about Buddhism, and they've given me only 40,000 words. And she said, 40,000 words? Well, that's too many. I mean, I could say it in 7. And she had no idea what she would say, but the guy said, well, how would you say it? And she said, everything's connected. It's all changing. Pay attention.
Oh.
Everything's connected.
Mm-hmm.
It's always changing and paying attention.
Wow.
And if you look at any one of these three things, it leads to all the others. That's one of the things I think that's so neat about the Buddhist way, is you just take one little thing, like kindness, and eventually you get to all the rest.
Would you equate paying attention with the idea of mindfulness?
Very much so.
Okay.
Mindfulness actually being a Buddhist teaching from Southeast Asia called Vipassana, or insight meditation, which is now being taught in hundreds of hospitals and schools and various places without ever being called Buddhism.
Ah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
You know, if people are in pain and if it works, good. Use it.
Well, of course, the thing about Vipassana is that it requires complete silence for long periods of time, so...
it sounds like you've tried it?
I did have a weekend of it, yes.
Happily or not?
Let's just say that there was a lot of mind stuff that went through my head.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it was a success, but it wasn't my... If I had my druthers, I would rather choose another form. Maybe I would lean towards Zen Buddhism probably rather than Vipassana.
Yeah. Well, sounds like, I don't want to name names, but I think I know which teacher you might have been with. Could begin with a G?
I think so.
Yeah, Burmese. Anyway, yeah, they have a kind of a real military drill toward it.
Yeah.
The thing about mindfulness, I think, that's really neat is it doesn't really have to be a 2-day ordeal. The way people like John Kabat-Zinn, for example, teach. He has a book called Wherever You Go, There You Are.
Yeah.
But mindfulness can't, there is a mindfulness technique that can be very arduous, but at its essence, it's simply just being aware of, using breath as being aware of something, and the breath is interconnected with our life. It isn't independent, and it's always changing. It's not permanent. And as we become aware of our breathing, we notice how much our emotions and our mind and our bodily sensations are interconnected with our breathing. It's not about changing our breathing, it's just about noticing our breathing. And then breathing is always in the present moment, so it brings us back to the only moment that's ever available to us. And eventually this awareness can become awareness of just awareness. And that's mindfulness in a nutshell. And I don't think you need a whole weekend for it, because you can do it in 2 or 3 breaths, really. But, and I myself like Zen very much, which is kind of even more non-dualistic. There isn't even anything about watching or who's watching and what's being watched. It's just sitting, and being with your life.
Yeah.
Just being with your life, and it doesn't require long periods of silence, although there are retreats called sesshin, and Zen people do like to do it long sometimes. But Zen can just be whatever in a moment. Paying attention is just noticing and being aware, rather than very often it's this vast conspiracy of ignorance and putting on blinders and blinkers.
Yeah, no kidding. You mentioned Alan Watts in your writings, and were you able to meet him before he passed on?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to actually. A friend of mine was living on the same houseboat as he was.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so I got to know Alan somewhat in the latter part of his life. I had heard him on, KPF, the